I think there's something very special about board games because it's something you can touch and you can hold and you can put on your shelf. Not only is it fun to play, but I also think it says something about you. Like it says that you value being with other people. It says that you value supporting art and like beautiful things. The other thing I love about the medium is that it makes memories. Like you are telling a story together, you are competing against each other. It's emotional, like you have conversations between turns, it's an event that you're putting on. This is something that causes us to look outside of ourselves. It causes us to interact with other people. And I think there's a very specific type of fun that is. There aren't really any other mediums like that.
I'm Austin Harrison, and I'm head of games at Ivy Studio. Ivy Studio is a board game company, and it's a group of friends that have been making things together for 10 years? 12 years? And yeah, we've been friends for a long time. We were a video production studio and animation studio, and now we make board games.
My name is Zach Dixon. I am one of the founders, and I am the creative director, and I also do game design. It's not really a role, but those are the things I do, among other things. We're really small, and we all touch every part of the process. Like we have a game design team, and that game design team is, seeing it through from the very beginning, from the moment that we first have the idea, all the way through developing that game, through art.
This is super crude, Zach. I'll make it look better.
Oh yeah, kill that ambassador. Launching the game through all the promotion, through the world building, through the shipping to the customer service. Like it's all the six of us, right? And many collaborators that we have outside of that.
My name is Lily, and I'm the community manager at Ivy. For me, community is forming relationships with people, even if it's momentarily. I like the idea that community can be formed anywhere, at any time.
What we're trying to do is bring games to the table that aren't just about, how can I big brain this to get the optimal amount of points and claim victory. It's more about how can I experience this game with the people I'm playing with, and how can we just create an environment where you can have a great time with your friends.
So every game has this process, right? You start with a core idea. That's just me, Max, and Austin.
I'm Max, and I am a game designer. It's a weird job. We really want the table to be engaged. We think that's the most fun part about board games. You're there to hang out with friends.
And we make the absolute fastest, ugliest version we possibly can, because most likely we're gonna can it all. And so it's just bad. And it's not supposed to be good because you should not spend a lot of time on it. And then we're like, all right, maybe this is something. And then make some changes, gets a little bit better. It starts to look more like a game, but it's still temp art. There's no real art in there whatsoever. And then from there, it starts to close in a little bit. We decide this is a game. This is a game we are going to make. This is a game we are going to publish. And then the clock starts. And it always feels too soon. And so you just start building on top of these prototypes. You see what worked. You look for the things that didn't communicate well. You see how people react to those designs. And then you send it off to print. And then it takes a really long time. And then eventually you get those first print samples back. And let me tell you, that is one of the most stressful experiences. It's an hour into the Moonrakers expansion.
You remember the Mythic Mischief dice that have to tick up from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3?
Yes.
And then they didn't tick up to 0 to 1 to 2 to 3, even though our pre-press copies did tick up? I have never been more nervous that I screwed something up than that day.
That was a lot of dice. How many dice did they have to throw away?
We made 10,000 copies, and there were 5 dice per faction and 7 factions. So what's that, 35 times 10,000? So 350,000? Is my math right? Yes, it was 350,000 dice. Now, luckily they were able to melt those down.
There are little pieces that need to fit together that don't fit together, and you gotta make changes, but then you gotta pay to fix the molds to make the changes. So then you gotta weigh okay, is this worth $5,000 to fix? Probably. That stinks.
I think the open-endedness of it is the double-edged sword of like, can you sit down and think? And even if you're not gonna come up with anything, can you just like spend the time being like, at least try? And eventually something comes. We had this idea for voting.
We were supposed to be talking about a different prototype that was just not working. And what often happens in those moments, whether it's me and Austin or Austin and Max, is we start kind of daydreaming about a totally new thing. Just like, this is not working, this is terrible. You know what I was thinking about though? Was like, what if we made a game that like had some political intrigue to it, right? Like what if there was a game where you were voting? If you were to win that vote, you would get a lot of points, right? Like it would be really good for you. But the only way for you to win that vote is if you could get other people to join you. Like if you could convince them that this would be good for them. I love games like that. And then from there, it's like, okay, well, how do we set that up, right? Like, okay, maybe there's some riders, right? Like maybe it's like, all right, there's this policy, we're gonna vote for it. But what if I slip this in there? Like if I slip in this in there, will you vote with me? And that kernel, right, of like, how do we set up this game around voting, about this player interaction of getting people onto your side? That sounds like a game I want to play.
We know we're gonna sit down and play it, and it's going to not be playable even. But you still get that feeling where you're like, this could be perfect.
We're about to play Brink. The three of us have never played this together, so we're gonna play it together. Well, we played it together, but not in person. So we're gonna play with a prototype. These are also old hex tiles, so we've rebalanced them since. And then we made some more changes, and we got those changes into this version of the game, and then we played it all together, and the old tiles kind of felt good, so we're gonna test and see, I don't know, what we like better.
The first like disappointment is sitting down and being like, okay, I know we had talked generally about all this stuff, but like when we get into the weeds, like you see some problems.
It just feels rulesy. Like it feels like it's another thing we have to explain about the ambassador. It's like, oh yeah, they also
What is
like.
your solution that's not rulesy?
There is no solution other than leaving it the way it is, which obviously has problems.
It does not, but okay. I don't think it actually has problems. The game has functioned up to this point and been fun.
Like,
and a couple times people are like, oh, this is kind of annoying. It's like, oh, that's not that bad. You have to push through that wall every time.
and then you're just sitting there like, okay, this is a game. Like, this is functional. But like, that's not what people want. People don't want it functional. They like, you want that initial feeling that you started with at the beginning. You want the political intrigue. You want like, all right, you gotta go here so we can vote on this together, and like, I'll trade you this and you trade me that. Like, you lose that feeling. And so you get to that point like, all right, it's functional now, but like the core thing we were chasing isn't there anymore. And then you just start to be like, all right, this works. Now how do we get back? Like, how do we get back to the magic? And I think we made it there on Brink.
We always had this thing where you are upgrading your ship. You would swap out your ship with a new one, and it's now more powerful in one of two directions.
Look at all those ships, man.
So many ships.
This is a massive fleet. We only have 3 now. What was there, like 12?
I think I was like mostly joking about like attachments. Like, what if you could just slot a little cargo thing onto your ship, and now you have the cargo ship. We kept pushing forward that idea, and now it's like actually real, and you get cool little attachments for your ship, which is like, I don't know, like the young kid in me was like, that's the coolest thing ever. So I'm excited for people to like see that and do it, because it's awesome.
I usually do photography for the campaigns, but Max set me up with a really nice rendering setup. So this time I'm gonna try and do nice fancy renders for everything in Redshift. They take a very long time to render on my little MacBook, but it gets the job done. And I think it looks nice and crisp.
So I think one of the biggest things that makes Ivy different is that we have people on staff that have done things way outside of board games.
We've been able to make art at a high level for clients like Nike and Bad Robot and Netflix. And we know what that takes, and we know what it looks like to make work at that level. And now we get to do that for ourselves, like for our fan base, for a group of people who have shown up and decided that they love these things that we're making. So this is one of those times where it is really helpful to have spent a lot of time making a lot of animated advertisements because, me and Max are, especially Max, are very fluent in things like Cinema 4D and Redshift, so we can make very pretty renders of our board games, do it pretty quickly in a way that's pretty cost effective, whereas if you didn't have that background, you'd have to hire out some very specialized people to go do these very nice renders. I want to show up every day and make world-class stuff, or at least try to. And I feel so lucky that I had this experience over the years, like working for these mega conglomerates, like to make stuff that I really enjoyed and that I'm really proud of, but now be able to take those skills that we've had and also the network of artists that we've been able to work with over the years and bring that to the board game space.
We're not just making a game. Our first game ever had a comic book in it, right? And Veiled Fate, our second game, had this incredible puzzly experience. We want people to engage in the worlds we're creating, and we want them to feel invested in those worlds. And that's with the Brink Terminal thing that we're doing right now. Like, it's this amazing text-based, murder mystery. Who Killed Meg Gallic?
Every time we release a game, I love doing something for the diehards. But with this one, I wanted to give people a way to jump into the Moonrakers universe that had a little bit lower barrier of entry. So when I started this, I was like, I'll be able to do this all in Rive, which is the animation software that I had used on some stuff for Veiled Fate. And then it was like, okay, what I want to be able to do is not going to be quite possible in Rive. And so I'll just start adding in a little bit of JavaScript, which I didn't really know any JavaScript before this. And then it ended up just being mostly JavaScript. And then I found out about TypeScript, which is way better than JavaScript, about halfway through. So if you look at the code, it's half JavaScript, half TypeScript. It's not good code, but it functions, and that's all that matters. But yeah, it's been fun. One of the things I love most about life is learning new things. And I've learned a lot of new things with this. I am a firm believer that you just need to try a bunch of things in life. But at first, it's always a risk, right? I mean, we put in a ton of money, some would say an irresponsible amount of money and time into making Moonrakers. But we had done that before. We put a ton of time, maybe an irresponsible amount of time into making Bouncy Smash. And then that just it didn't produce anything financially, but that's not the only end result. I think the journey is more important than the destination. I think that is, at least for me, how I don't know, get out of bed every day. It's just I can't be focused on the end destination. What I can control and what I can focus on is the day-to-day experience of showing up and collaborating with the people that I work with and enjoying that, getting better at the process, and just learning new things. And I think eventually, I hope, we'll find something that clicks and connects. But all you can do is just show up and try. So this is your ship, bob it up and down, change direction, that kind of thing. I have a problem with overscoping things, or what they call scope creep. I think I might try and add some combat. It just kept getting bigger and bigger, and now it's kind of a little almost video game experience. To add ship parts, I have to make an armory, which then populates different ship parts, and I have to make enough ship parts for them to be, for the whole system to be interesting. I have to make enough enemies for the whole system to be interesting, and then some loot for the enemies that, give you a reason to attack the enemies. Maybe there should be points for killing enemies, maybe then a leaderboard. You see how this happens. Why do I do things like this? It just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and it's not great. It's fun though. I think there's something valuable in providing an experience that people who want to go deep can go deep. I mean, a lot of people seem to be enjoying it. I actually keep a live update thing on my TV here. I can see people as they use the game, kind of in real time. It refreshes every 10 seconds. So right now, let's see, Nalek and Play-Doh are playing right now, getting into it. So it's fun. It's fun to see people interacting with it. Yeah, we've had a lot of people using it, which has been fun. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, we have to make money. Like, that is the stick behind the carrot. Like, the carrot is making things that we love. The carrot is learning new things. The carrot is, we made this thing, and then that ends up being someone's favorite thing.
Each game we make is not going to be every single one of everyone's newest favorite game. Our goal is for it to be some of our community's favorite game. And so, as we take more and more risks with mechanics, there's a chance one of them will just fall flat. And that will eventually happen. IV will definitely eventually come out with a dud. My job is to make it as long as possible until we come out with that dud, right?
As soon as you need to make money on something, as soon as this needs to work, I think it motivates you in a different way. And believe me, we have had moments in the past few years. I mean, it's been a tough past few years. We've had moments where we need this Kickstarter to do well.
Every launch feels like a risk.
Every time we've made a game, it's been terrible, and it goes through ups and downs, and then eventually cracks through some ceiling, and then we're like, cool, we got there. We did something worthwhile, and now we can go send it out to the world. That's a big moment, and so to get there, continually with these games, that feeling is amazing.
I feel such gratitude to be able to show up and work on things that people care about. And I think there is that fear, right, of oof, are they gonna show up again? But I also kind of love this moment where it's a very clear goal. Brink is launching, and we're gonna do everything we can to get the word out, to get people excited about it. And I don't know, I love that let's get in there and get it done feeling.